possible you could look at our behind the scenes story this time and say, what do you have to talk about? With Turtle Power, it's exciting. You guys are from a small town. He was a high school teacher. He worked as a developer at an economic development board. You had a camera and kind of walked around and made people do stuff for you. We should do a documentary on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. No, we shouldn't. Okay, we should. Like, it's a scrappy little tale, right? This one's not a scrappy little tale. We already made one. What's the background? Well, the background here, the story, the way that this fits together is this is a group of people who are figuring out how they do this and refining it and seeing the process and realizing, oh, we can do this. We know how to do this. We could do it again and again and again. We could do it for Starbucks, or we could do it for He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
I kind of look at 80s properties in like 3 or 4 big pillars: Ninja Turtles, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and He-Man. Turtles is at the end of that, which is kind of why it was more my generation. But before I was born, there was a big franchise that started it all, which was He-Man. So I thought that, and by all, I mean the 80s, big 80s cartoon toy franchises.
We all have that show that we grow up with that sticks to our DNA. We all have that first show that we connect to. And for me, it was Masters of the Universe, hands down. I was the kid who raised the sword. I was the one that had He-Man in one hand, Skeletor in the other hand. I watched the TV show, I played, I lived, breathed, and ate He-Man, and of course She-Ra when that came on too.
He-Man was a great property for the definitive film brand. So I think that right away, I had it in the back of my mind that He-Man was one of the big ones we wanted to hit for sure.
So I was finishing a film called Nintendo Quest, and I saw this trailer for a film called Turtle Power. And after digging a little deep, I found it was made by some guys in Canada that were actually pretty close to my hometown. And I reached out to one of them, Isaac Elliott Fisher. And on our first phone call, I said, hey man, I love your doc, and we should make a movie together on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Let's team up. And then there was silence, and we didn't talk again for a year.
We released Turtle Power Volume 1, and this idea that we had come up upon the three of us working together with these intersecting skill sets, we thought we could handle another doc.
You know, we were kind of looking for other projects to do. We'd started working on Conan the Barbarian, because that was kind of a logical thing, because we had passion about it, which is something that isn't necessarily the most important thing, but it was important in that case. There was just something about Conan that really excited us. So we'd gone down that path, and in doing so, we had kind of tapped into some He-Man connection.
We were in the basement of the people that owned Conan the Barbarian. They had a basement storage locker, and we were down there looking for materials and really going through it in an exhaustive way. And I believe Isaac found a document that made reference to the Mattel and Conan Properties International deal, something to the effect that they had an arrangement and it didn't pan out exactly.
We found these pieces of paper that helped illustrate a timeline that has been speculated over for many years, which is to say that many people believe that He-Man was as a result of the Conan movie. That's not necessarily the case, and it does look like that Mattel was working on a Conan line at the same time with the same designers. So it was cool to see, and that was one of those serendipity moments where we went, oh, you know, we should maybe focus a little bit of attention on a possible He-Man documentary as well.
We're kind of starting to build a definitive film brand. We also realize that the three of us can only do so much. There's only so many hours in a day, and the idea that we were starting to think of is maybe we should collaborate with other filmmakers out there that are doing something similar. Maybe there's a way we can band together. When Rob came on the scene and we noticed what he was doing with Nintendo Quest, and we noticed his drive and his ability to really go after things, and especially his whole thing with the Kickstarter thing and seeing his success with that. And then once we realized that he also was interested in doing something He-Man wise, we kind of thought it was a no-brainer to have a conversation with him.
And I put a post online saying that I was going to make a He-Man doc, and Isaac within 3 minutes, I think, called me up saying, hey, are you making a He-Man doc?
Rob McCallum trolled us a little bit. I don't know if he will admit that, trolled us a little bit on Facebook, reached out to Isaac, and Isaac is sometimes motivated by emotions.
There was no troll. I just put up a bunch of He-Man pictures, and I was talking about a bunch of different projects that I may make into documentaries.
I think the thing that really kind of, I wouldn't say solidified, but kind of gave us a bit of instinctual feeling of, you know, we should do He-Man was when we did the booth at the London Comic-Con. And when we were there, we were demonstrating some of our other stuff. We had Turtle Power stuff. We had some teasers for Conan. And just on a whim, Isaac put together this display case of a whole bunch of He-Man figures.
We had kind of put this cabinet of collectible toys in the brands that we were working with. Ninja Turtles was in there, He-Man was in there, I think there was another shelf. And it was fascinating to see the people walking by the booth and remarking on the toys in the cabinet because there were different brands in there. They overwhelmingly were drawn to the He-Man shelf.
And going, oh my God, I remember this. Oh, there's Skeletor. Oh, there's Castle Grayskull. And you started to see that, you know, even though it wasn't on my radar because I'm too old, that there was a lot of nostalgia and a lot of excitement about reminiscing about these characters.
It was difficult for me to see how He-Man would sort of have as much legacy. My ignorance, I soon learned. When we entered into an agreement with Rob, let's all work together on this and figure out a way to pull Rob into our system. And by the way, that is not easy for anyone else. We have a very idiosyncratic, very specific way of working. 3 control freaks, 3 people who do things a certain way, and we pull Rob in, and Rob's a filmmaker in his own right. I don't envy him. I would not want to work with me either.
I believed in the way that they wanted to do things, and I was willing to say, okay, you know what? Sign me up for this glorified internship. I want to learn how you guys do things. And with that, it came the understanding that let's follow their process. But what I brought to the table was a little bit more knowledge of the fandom. I was a fan growing up as a kid. I knew the series intimately in every iteration from the original toy line, cartoon comics, through all the reboots. And that was something that those guys didn't have. So couple that with my filmmaking experience and the ability I have to reach out to that fan base and get everybody excited. It was a really cool 1-2 punch. They had the process and high-end gear and production values, and I brought all the fandom and excitement.
Going to Kickstarter, I don't think we would have, the 3 of us. I think we would have just done it the way we have done in the past, grassrooted it, money out of pocket, hope we sell it someday kind of approach.
When your shift start?
Just this morning, actually.
Are you making enough money here to cover the dock?
Here at FOPOP, we have to pay our own way. So we have to go ahead and work when we're on the road and make sure we can raise enough money to continue making the film.
We can't shoot with David Wise till 10:30 because I got a couple hours of dishes to do, so sorry. I had reservations because I don't want to disappoint people. And I always think if you say to a group of people, why don't you give us money and we'll give you something in return? It's hard to make those definitions fit for everybody's needs.
So they've got to take that leap of faith, which is great that they're willing to trust you, and you've got to make those promises, which can be good and bad depending on how much you're trying to promise. So each side's got to come and meet in the middle. And as time goes on from that initial kind of contract deal that you make, it gets more and more frustrating to some degree because everybody wants that thing to come out.
There have been some people who are frustrated, and I get it. I mean, I've been frustrated. That's what I say in my messages. Yes, it is frustrating. You wish you could put the product out. We wish we could put out a 5-hour He-Man movie and then everybody would buy it and everybody would be happy and we would break even and move on. Not profit. If we break even, that'll be a success.